Here's a clip from the new anime, Don. Oh wow, this looks really cool. I really wish the Chainsaw Man anime looked like this.
You vile scoundrel! You abhorrent, slimy oaf! You don't deserve to be near a computer, disgracing everyone with your loathsome, worthless opinion! We used to tie people up from trees and beat them to death with sticks for talking like this! How dare you suggest that the Chainsaw Man anime needed improvement? Leave my favorite multi-billion-dollar production with ample resources alone! Twitter mob! Seize him!
Wait, how'd you get in my hub?
I am tired of these motherfucking dick riders all up in my motherfucking feed spewing the same old shit.
Oh, the Chainsaw Man anime looked great. You're ungrateful to all those poor animators. The director was fired because you people can't let other people enjoy things.
Let people fucking enjoy things? Let people call something a crock of shit. And the Chainsaw Man anime was alright. I enjoyed it.
Gotcha, bitch!
However, it could have been better. Now, let me say now before anyone gets it twisted, Chainsaw Man is my favorite manga series of all time, and that's coming from someone who 9 out of 10 times prefers the anime. Chainsaw Man is the rare 1 out of 10. Tatsuki Fujimoto is a top 3 mangaka for me, maybe even top 1. His storytelling abilities are great, his paneling feels cinematic, his pacing is breakneck fast and exhilarating, and his dialogue can make you cry 1 minute but then laugh the next. One of the greatest aspects of Fujimoto's strengths, and dare I say underrated aspects, is his art. Fujimoto is an extremely talented artist, a fact that often gets overlooked or sometimes even outright denied by people critical of Chainsaw Man Part 2's recent art style changes ever since the series went weekly. He has one of my favorite styles in the industry, second only to Horikoshi, which, I mean, it's Horikoshi, come on, like, that's understandable.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
His character designs are instantly recognizable, his facial expressions are top-notch, his fight scenes, while messy, feel intentionally messy, with heavy line weight and smears giving a pristine sense of danger and fluidity. And yet, despite that, it lends itself well to somber scenes to boot. We can see this in one of his other acclaimed recognizable works, Look Back. We see in Look Back just how far Fujimoto's passion for drawing and the art extends. The main characters, Fujino and Kiyomoto, are literally just his own name split into 2 people. It's a story about his experience with writing manga. The manga series they make is a direct spoof of Chainsaw Man, even copying the exact same novel covers. These 2 mangas would not be remotely the same if they had their art styles changed. It's integral to their identity. And yet, the Chainsaw Man anime doesn't attempt to mimic the style faithfully, at least in my opinion. I'll go further in depth on it later, but the Chainsaw Man anime is more like an interpretation rather than a one-to-one adaptation. It feels like the direct... I have a lot of spit in my mouth, sorry. It feels like the director Ryu Nakayama's vision for the series more than it feels like the manga being put to motion. That's not always a bad thing, but if you're making an adaptation of a 10 out of 10 story with a 10 out of 10 style, you better make damn sure you produce an 11. Chainsaw Man is an 8 at best. Yeah, I said it, it's good, I liked it. 8 is a solid score. It's a great anime, but people are so content in settling for just being good enough when talking about one of the most unique, visually stunning mangas currently running right now. And it's giving... leave the multi-billion-dollar corporation alone. Big time. I have my gripes with Studio Mappa, and we'll go fully into them later in this video, but when I tell you 90% of my issues with how the anime was handled falls on them, I'm being dead ass. Not the animators, mind you, they were just doing their jobs, and I feel like here and there they did great. But corporate MAPPA and the higher-ups on production are responsible for turning this diamond into bronze. They had the resources, the manpower, the artist approval, and the time to put everything they possibly could into this anime to make it the best one-to-one they could have ever made, and yet it missed the mark. Why? Well, luckily for me, I have something to compare it to now. Look Back just got an anime movie, and I'm going to see it today. Judging by the trailers, it looks amazing, but I gotta see it for myself just in case, I don't want to make a whole white boy video essay and just end up being wrong. So, hey, I'll let you guys know how I feel about it after I get back, okay? Boom!
I've gotta keep living!
Gay shit, bitch!
Jesus, tap dancing Christ, what a fucking movie. Just wow. As much as I'd love to gush about everything this movie has to offer, like the characters, the writing, the music, oh my god, music.
Stimming or self-stimulatory behavior is a symptom of autism.
I started this video with a comparison in mind, and thankfully with the advent of the movie finally airing, I can safely say with 100% of my chest, Look Back was a better adaptation than Chainsaw Man in every way.
Wait, don't post that comment.
Why? What did Look Back do differently in comparison to Chainsaw Man? Why do I adore one while having mixed feelings on the other? What did Chainsaw Man's anime do well? What did it not do well? Welcome to Ditties, a show where I talk about pieces of media that I find interesting. All of these questions will be answered and more as we dive deep into every aspect of adapting. This is how Look Back did what Chainsaw Man couldn't.
Indubitably.
So to start this video off, I'll be briefly talking about what I liked about Look Back, then I'll go into my critiques about the Chainsaw Man anime, but then we'll end things off with the things I liked about the Chainsaw Man anime. Give it a compliment sandwich, let you guys know that I'm not just hating for the sake of the game, I'm passionate, okay? Alright. Sorry if you clicked on this video thinking it was mostly going to be about Look Back, because in truth, this is a critique of Chainsaw Man through and through with the disguise of it being a Look Back review for the sake of the algorithm. Oopsie, ain't I a stinker? That being said, don't worry, I still have plenty to say about what an amazing job Studio Durian and Kiyotaka Oshiyama did. I'm just better at talking smack. Plus, negative opinions get more hate comments, and hate comments boost my video's performance, so fuck you, I do what I want. I didn't actually mean that. Without further ado, my thoughts on Look Back. This is the best movie I watched all year. Debatably the best movie I've watched all decade. Whenever it comes to streaming, watch it. Hell, pirate it or bootleg it if you have to. I won't snitch. Just watch this movie. If you're a creator of any kind, you'll get a kick out of it. Trust your boy. This feels like a film by artists for artists, and you can see that right down to every pixel in this masterpiece of an art film. Truthfully, I have no way of starting this neatly with segues and all that, so I'm just jumping right in with the glazing. No rubber, no grease, no nothing. This film gets Fujimoto's line weight down perfectly. It seems like such a simple thing, like the lines, really? But trust me on this one. Fujimoto has an extremely distinct style, and that in part is due to his usage of thick, messy lines. I noticed this at a few points in my viewing, but there are several shots where the line work almost looks sketched in a way. In any other show, this would be an insult, but in adapting Fujimoto's style and with it being a film about manga, I love that they kept those little imperfections in there. The lines have a slight wiggle and shakiness to them. They often trail off from when they're supposed to be. And the hair, oh my god, the hair looks so good in this. Look at all the little sprouts. This feels lovingly crafted with human hands, rather than just being the product of the week done purely for money. Oshiyama commented in the behind the scenes short just after the movie that he actually noticed this roughness to the line art and decided to keep it in because it shows the viewer that while they're watching two little girls try and create a manga, there are artists just like them crafting their story. They get the mouths and the eyes in this just right. One thing you'll notice about Fujimoto's style straight away is his expressions. They're fantastic. He knows how to portray emotion and character acting through even the subtlest of gestures. You'll only need to find people reposting that same Asa picture from weeks back in part 2 of Chainsaw Man to know that, or the devastating look in Fire Punch that became a meme on 4chan. Look Back aces these expressions with nearly identical facial gestures. Despite being incredibly simple, I appreciate Fujimoto's eyes a lot. The dilated pupils are a nice departure from the typical big-eyed, seizure-inducing eyes that the industry churns out. Dare I say, this film, with its eyes, almost kind of reminds me of an old-school Ghibli film. That's it. There's nothing more than that. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. It's neat that it looks like that. For some shots, they directly and heavily reference the manga panel it was based on, and I love that. I'm not sure why this is viewed upon as a bad thing by some anime fans. For instance, My Hero gets a lot of flack for doing the same thing. Why? Fujimoto's expressions are worth copying because without them, some of the emotional moments in the show just wouldn't hit the same. And it's not as though the movie is just copying things either. Look Back not only tells an accurate recreation of the source material, but I'd argue it elevates it. When I originally read the one-shot, I'll admit, I didn't get the hype behind the rain scene, but with the animation, it clicked. The music swelling, the beautiful aerial shot of rural Japan, the regretful yet excited look on Fujino as her arms swayed back and forth, her skipping turning into a run. It's peak. And part of why that is because instead of trying to do its own thing, Look Back instead builds off of what was already there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. One thing the movie did need to invent itself, however, is the coloring. Obviously, being a black and white one-shot manga, Look Back's anime adaptation thankfully gets the colors spot on. They're all warm and represent the serenity and calmness needed to evoke that sense of wonder the movie provokes within you. Particularly, I love the way they shade the hair. It looks just like how Fujimoto shades in the manga with that sort of cross-hatching, sketchy look, only it's in color. The lighting in this is fantastic as well, so much rim lighting and warm shading, yet it never feels too much to the point where it's distracting. And just like that, I think that's about all I can get into without getting into spoilers, and I want to keep this video spoiler free in case you want to check either of these out. Sorry, again, my thoughts on this are a bit shorter than usual, but they don't need to be stretched out more than what I think. This movie did an amazing job at not only nailing Fujimoto's art style, but upraising it to theatrical status. While the original manga feels like a love letter to the art of creating manga, the anime is very clearly a love letter to animation and creating in general. In a world where so much of our entertainment industry, especially in Japan, is built on what will make the most money rather than artistic vision, it's nice to have a movie, for once, that was so genuine. TLDR, it's peak. Please, for the love of God, I cannot stress this enough, and I'd love to do a full review at some point. Maybe not in a video, but more of a text review, if anyone would be interested in that. Watch this movie. It's an 11, and probably my favorite movie of not just the year, but the 2020s decade. And hell, even if you somehow don't like it, it's only an hour long. It's been a while since I watched a movie where I didn't have to take a piss halfway through. Look Back, I love you. Thank you for giving myself and so many other artists the motivation to create again. Alright, now let's get into this shit. Chainsaw Man anime, what the f happened?
Not in this house.
Okay, so sorry if it seems like I'm endlessly hammering this point in, but if I don't say it every 5 seconds, it's gonna get misconstrued that I'm just a hater. So let me just get this out of the way. The first thing I should acknowledge before getting into my criticisms is that this show doesn't look bad. In certain scenes, it looks great, in fact, and we'll get into the stuff I liked later. I just like calling it shitty because it's funny to piss off Makima simps and anime-onlys who think MAPPA can do no wrong.
Holy shit, Mappa makes me come.
MAPPA has some extremely talented animators and production staff, and they deserve hats off and ample praise for the shit they probably had to go through to get this stuff pushed out. And before anything else, I liked their work on JJK, Vinland Saga, and AOT. But they're not Studio Anime Jesus. Okay, so we cool now? Have I finally made myself clear on that front? Can I finally sink my teeth into this shit? You guys genuinely have no idea how long I've been waiting to talk about my disappointment with this anime's visuals. I've had this idea brewing in my sick little fucked up head ever since I made the first video on loser anime. So this has been a long time coming for me. Let's fucking get it. Since we started with the line weight comparisons for Look Back, why don't we continue that trend and talk about how thin and clean the line work is for Chainsaw Man. Ew! Take a look at this side-by-side comparison between the manga and the anime. Notice how thin the lines are on all the character outlines. You might be asking yourself, Dity, is it really that big of a deal that lines are thin? Why does it matter? It matters because it fundamentally changes the design. Denji was drawn with a thick head of messy hair and sharp, jagged teeth in mind, and these points are exaggerated with a thicker, messier line art style. But with the added cleanliness, bro just looks weird. Power's horns are much less sharp and look almost round to a certain degree, and Makima's tits get fucking huge! God damn! Why would a thicker, messier line art style be better in this context? The fight scenes, simple as. You'll see me bring up how disappointed I was with the fights later on, but with the context of the line weight fresh in our heads, let's bring up how thin line weight affects the action scenes. It makes them worse. With the roughness and ferocity of Chainsaw Man's fight scenes, it is begging to be animated as a flat, fast, messy show with quick cuts and lightning fast action. Instead, half the time we get this clean, cookie-cutter, industry-standard line weight that almost looks like CGI with how slow and grounded it feels. And when it isn't that, it is CGI! And yeah, we'll talk about that later too. Much more viciously. Let's go back to the subject of mouths and eyes. Denji and Power's mouths are neat. I like how the more rowdy characters in the series have shark teeth to amplify their shape theory, presenting a level of hot-headedness or dangerousness. In the anime, I don't quite know what it is, which I know is shitty of a critic to say, but the mouths just look off. Like there's something not quite right with the expression, you know what I mean? As for the eyes, they mostly look fine, except for Power and Makima. One could argue that in the manga these characters also had pretty detailed eyes, but their eyes in the anime look a little too detailed, you know? The simplicity in the eyes of Fujimoto's characters help to convey a more grounded feeling and take you away from the ever-present overcomplicated designs of eyes in the anime and manga industry. It's ironic that the decisions made to keep the show grounded in this sort of gritty, realistic style end up hurting it in the long run, but the other decisions made to fit industry standards end up blending it in with other shows and robbing it of its identity. Makima doesn't need a gazillion different little eye bubbles in her irises. She needs to look like a psychopath. Give her less detail. It makes her feel all the more real and threatening. Color in general is something I feel this show gets wrong as well. There's an official colored manga, and if you haven't checked it out already, I seriously recommend it. It's how I read through part 1. One of the best things I found about reading it this way was the harshness and the brutality of the colors chosen. They're all these beautiful neon and highly saturated spreads that perfectly portray the extremities of the world. Chainsaw Man is a manga that bleeds extreme, from the title character to the themes to the world. Guys, it's a story about a guy who, in the first couple chapters, fights with chainsaws extending from his body, and he wants to cop a feel of some boobs. Let the colors go fucking wild. Stop with this muted, dull, gray crap. I get what Nakayama was going for. He wanted to ground the more quiet moments with a more realistic color palette. I like that. But the fights need to explode. They need to pop out as you're watching. Realistic color palettes don't do that. And when you get scenes that are meant to be the beauty in Denji's chaotic life, often the show attempts to use way too much bloom and artificially brighten and saturate the scene, despite the colors already just being muted. If the more muted and realistic colors were chosen for the grounded moments between fight scenes, while the fights were stylized and saturated, I think that'd have been a much better alternative than what we got. The fights in Chainsaw Man are some of the best fights in Shounen Jump. Period. Unfortunately though, the Chainsaw Man anime just doesn't seem to get it. There's a lot of budget put into these fights. Emotionally, they're good, and I'm sure the animators who worked on it are talented and all, but I've been ignoring a big elephant in the room. For about half the fight scenes in this show, Denji is animated in CGI.
Why the fuck is he CGI?
This is genuinely the worst decision that the anime has made by a fucking mile. You can say the CGI is good. You can even say it's great. I don't think so. Personally, I think even by anime standards, the CGI looks like shit. Denji's face is incredibly misshapen. He's slow, he's sluggish. Everything about this just looks wrong. Denji's fight with the zombies at the beginning of the series is genuinely the most disappointing fight scene I've watched in a while. And I watched two hobos fight over a crack pipe the other day. Denji is a speedster. He's meant to be fast, fluid, visceral, rough. He's meant to wear down his opponents through rapid blows like, you know, the teeth on a chainsaw against a log of wood. As previously mentioned, his thin-line CGI self never reaches anywhere close to the speed visually indicated in the manga. CGI works in Mappa production specifically when the thing being animated is large in scale. Think the Titans from season 4 of Attack on Titan. The reason those looked good was because they were meant to be slow and foreboding. They were meant to be grounded in the way that they fight. They're hulking massive beasts. Denji doesn't work that way. I wouldn't have as big of a problem with this if it were a smaller studio, but this is Mappa we're talking about. You know, the studio that made Cash Cow Kaisen, Milk on Titan, never getting a season 3 saga. They have the money to make a fast, fluid Denji happen. The same way they had the money to make 12 fucking endings, which are all fantastic, no doubt, but also kind of a waste of funds, a little bit. Like, if they didn't have the money to make Denji not CGI, all I'm saying is we could have easily went for like 1 or 2 endings, not 12. They thought that CGI Denji was good enough. That's why they spent that extra money on those endings. It's the same reason why they spent 5 years milking Attack on Titan's final season. It's the same reason they immediately are pushing out a 3rd season of JJK, not 1 year after their 2nd season began airing. Mappa likes getting that paper.
Hello, I like money.
Whatever makes them the most bread, that's what they're gonna do. They thought 12 unique endings would be a good selling point, so they saw it as an investment. If they cared about the media they were adapting, they would have used that money elsewhere. Like I said, get 1 or 2 endings for season 1 and spend the rest on not using CGI. And if, on the off chance I'm wrong and it's not malicious, it's heavily mismanaged financing at best. Fuck the fans, fuck the vision, and fuck our animators who haven't seen their kids in weeks. Let's scout Shounen Jump for another cash cow and put our series on back burners. The reason I hated MAPPA getting the rights to Chainsaw Man wasn't even the animation. It was the fact that I knew that new seasons were going to take forever. It's been a year since the Chainsaw Man movie was announced, and still we know nothing. No new footage, no new release date, dead radio silence. It's because they always have their hands in other projects. They're always having their hands in other projects. MAPPA loves adapting long, popular shonen manga, hoarding the rights, and doing nothing with it. You wanna know how I know this? Vinland Saga, one of the most commercially and critically acclaimed anime ever, still doesn't have a season 3 greenlit. Fans are begging on Twitter for them to bring it back, and it's falling on deaf ears because Jujutsu Kaisen makes more money. You could argue I'm getting off topic, but in airing my grievances with the studio, I want to highlight what could have been. If we got a studio that cared about adapting the source material style over what would have made the most money, we could have gotten a Chainsaw Man anime that had a thick, sketchy line art style, colors that fit the source material, no CGI, no post-processing bloom effects, gorgeous animation, and a faithful recreation of Fujimoto's style. I wonder why that sounds familiar. Instead, what we got is an admittedly gorgeous show with amazing animation and its own identity separate from the source material, but I feel it falls flat as an adaptation of the style and lacks the charm the manga has. It's very clearly going for its own thing, soaring in some aspects but plummeting in others. Things like the egregiously clean and thin line art, the use of CGI, mishandling the budget in things that don't have a priority over other things, adding and removing scenes, and overall just being a worse product with a gazillion times more budget and manpower behind it. MAPPA's Chainsaw Man is a great anime with tons of effort put in and with many things about it to like from the outside looking in, but it's lacking one very important thing: being Chainsaw Man.
Don't go anywhere yet. We'll be right back with more commodity. Special feature! Check out my mixtape.
Everyone get back! It's the Minecraft YouTuber devil! Don't worry, I'll handle this! Okay, yeah, never mind. My ass is getting folded. Can I get some help here? Anyone? Literally anyone else, please.
Chainsaw Man, if you win, I'll give you the, Tua? What the fuck is that?
Wait, really?
She uses teeth! Bitch, why the fuck do you do that? I'm just a hater, lowkey.
My fault, gang. I didn't know you were chill like that.
Chainsaw Man, if you win, I'll do the dishes for a whole month.
That means actually washing them and not licking them clean, you know.
Then what's the point of doing them?
Step aside. I'll handle this. Chainsaw Man. If you win, I'll let you tongue my butthole for a whole week.
Real shit!
We're back with more commodity.
Okay, so I know this is like a totally new day, okay? And I'm not being subtle about that at all. But I was a couple hot days into editing, and that side of my head with the tuft of hair was actually driving me fucking livid while I was editing, okay? And I was too deep in the editing process to where I could remove it. So I'm just recording the latter half of this video a day later, or a couple days later, okay? That, and I didn't wear my Chainsaw Man shirt. Like, what was the thought process? What was I thinking?
Essentially what I was trying to say here was, it's not a Ditties without some technical ditties.
On January 6th, 2024, Ryu Nakayama left MAPPA and by extension the production of the Chainsaw Man anime in pursuit of starting his own studio. Nakayama's involvement with not just Chainsaw Man, but with anime in general, has been seen in a mixed light by both Japanese and overseas audiences. He wasn't really known for much before this, but he did direct a couple episodes of Shield Hero and Jujutsu Kaisen. From what I read with his interview about Fujimoto's previous mangas, he seems to genuinely care and know a lot about Fujimoto's work, claiming to be a fan of Fire Punch as well as one-shots like Goodbye Eri and Look Back. I can't for the life of me find the source on this, but in browsing some video essays for this review, I came across him saying something along the lines of him feeling tired of the traditional way animes are directed nowadays, saying how they all feel samey and blend together. Whether he successfully adapted Tatsuki Fujimoto's work or not, I can say safely that in spite of its flaws, Chainsaw Man did manage to stand out from the seasonal slop that's churned out by the industry. Whether you liked the adaptation or not, bullying this man out of his position at MAPPA purely for ruining your favorite manga is a bit of an overreaction. I think we can all agree on that. It wasn't just his directing style that resulted in the piss-poor adaptation of Fujimoto's work. It was a multitude of different things that led to the final product, and I truly believe that Nakayama wanted to make the best product he could in spite of the limitations likely placed on him by his corporate overlords. It would be a disservice to his efforts and his team's efforts to not at least try to mention the good things he did for the production, even if overall I didn't end up preferring it to the manga. For starters, the cinematography and framing in this anime is fantastic. Fujimoto is inspired by a lot of Western media such as Tarantino films and American animation. These shots feel like something straight out of a movie, no doubt intentional because of the amazing intro that fully encapsulates everything that Chainsaw Man is about, with references to things like Pulp Fiction and No Country for Old Men, and that amazing song with lyrics that perfectly describe Denji as a character. While we're on the subject, those EDs, while unfortunately a bit of a waste in resources that could have been diverted to better places, are ultimately fucking awesome. I really enjoy the second, third, and fourth endings. They're all amazingly drawn, and all the songs are bangers. I seriously, genuinely wish more of the show looked like these EDs, especially the third one. They are by far the best thing that the Chainsaw Man anime had produced. Now, I know that may seem a bit hypocritical considering I was just wishing them out of existence a couple minutes ago, but if the show had the same stylistic choices as these EDs, I'd have no hesitation in calling this anime a 10. And since I'm never going to talk about this again, probably, the music for this series in general also just fucking bangs. Kazuki Ushio did an incredible job capturing the feel. I can definitely see myself listening to some of these songs as I read part 2. A particular favorite of mine is Edge of Chainsaw. It really feels like Denji's theme. Some other notable highlights include Living Room, Chainsaw Attacks, and The Devil Hunter. Check this out on Spotify or something if you haven't already. Getting back to the visuals, one thing I love about the anime is the little scenes it added in service of the pacing. A lot of people weren't too happy about the anime's pacing, to which I disagree. I think the pacing is actually a welcoming change. Chainsaw Man as a whole is about moments of serenity between lapses of chaos. I know the breakneck pacing of the manga's first volume is the reason a lot of people got into the series in the first place, but thinking about it thematically, this is supposed to be the moments in Denji's life where he's the happiest. It makes sense that things are a bit more chilled out in comparison to how wild shit is gonna get when they start animating the stuff at the end of part 1. Did the anime need a 3-minute scene of Aki going through his daily routine with oddly smooth animation? No, but I actually really like that it's there. It, without words, tells you exactly what kind of character Aki is and why Denji grows to idolize him. The backgrounds are beautiful. I particularly enjoy the yellow lighting of the Infinite Hotel. It almost gives it like a liminal space backrooms vibe that I know some entitled snobs are gonna yell at me for bringing up in the comments section, but yeah, I really like that. A lot of set pieces are dirty, musky, and harsh, but just as many show the beauty that lies within the world of chaos. The city landscape after Denji's first time drinking, for example, looks great. The anime's strengths lies in its slow scenes. I really liked the scene where Himeno grooms Denji, and no, it's not because she's hot. Okay, maybe just a little bit. Look, I know it's wrong, but pedophilia be damned. I'd have folded in Denji's shoes, and don't act like any of you wouldn't either. What? For real though, this scene was really well done. I love how it doesn't hold the viewer's hand in determining whether or not this is wrong, just like Fujimoto intended. It is, to be clear, but it's not spelled out because the viewer is seeing it through Denji's perspective. He doesn't know what love is, and he doesn't want his first time to be him getting essentially assaulted. It's almost a bittersweet moment from his perspective, and this perspective is all the more immersive when we see Himeno directly from Denji's point of view in a fantastically animated opening shot. Boobs. For as much as I hate the new designs, the animation itself when it's not CGI is good, and there are some fight scenes, believe it or not, that I do like the choreography of. Sorry. The fights with the Infinity Devil and Katana Man are great, and pretty much any scene with Kishibe fighting is done super well. I love that in the anime when Power and Denji launch their surprise attack, you as an audience member can see and hear the things that clues Kishibe into the positions of his attackers. Things like the water bottles crinkling above him or Denji's shadow appearing in front of him as he lunges for an attack at his backside.
You're full of shit.
Katana Man's fight, while a bit slow and sluggish for my taste, peaks in its second part on the train where Denji's intuitive strike cleaves him in two. This scene is expertly done and perfectly captures the feeling you get while reading the manga. With the music swelling, the slow drag of Denji's chainsaw as it scratches blood across the floor, the almost Looney Tune ass reaction of Katana Man before getting literally cleaved in two. Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. Honestly, if it just had slightly faster animation, I'd have preferred it to the manga, and that's saying something. And that's about all I really liked. The rest was just okay, mediocre, or edging being bad. Overall, Chainsaw Man is an anime made by people who played the hand they were dealt and just wanted to get the job done. Look Back, by comparison, was a film made by people who were given ample time and resources by a cast and crew who cared about the subject matter at hand. Now don't get me wrong, it's the anime industry, and I'm sure some whippings went down behind the curtain, believe me. But I think I'm not alone in thinking that this was an infinitely more thoughtful, faithful adaptation than what we got with Chainsaw Man. It makes me wonder what kind of show we would have gotten in a different studio's hands. A studio that understood what they were making and weren't solely in it for the most amount of money possible. There's a reason why those scandals of mistreatment broke out during the production of Jujutsu Kaisen Part 2. There's a reason why someone animated the Mappa corporate building being destroyed in an explosion during Sukuna's city rampage. It's because the animators were treated like shit in an effort to save profit. And instead of rewarding their suffering, I instead went on a long-winded rant about how this other studio did a better job than them. So let it be known here, I am forever grateful for the people who provide us this entertainment. Animating and art in general can be an extremely arduous task, and when the work you provide doesn't get the positive results you anticipated, it can be soul-crushing. However, the Chainsaw Man anime was not the fault of the animators. Behind every frame, behind every flick of the pen, behind every thin line arted sketch lies an animator with the same passion for art and drawing as the artists who worked on Look Back. Look Back, and by extension, Tatsuki Fujimoto asked us the question, why do we draw? It's a question that has no answer as the answer changes from person to person. Ryu Nakayama wanted to make his version of Chainsaw Man, while Kiyotaka Oshiyama wanted to help bring Tatsuki Fujimoto's vision to life. I hope that with this video, you leave knowing that the product is only as good as the motivation behind why you choose to make it. Anyways, subscribe so I can get more money. See you guys next week!
It's Dity, bitch! And you know we run the city, bitch! How much I gotta pay for a titty pic? Subscribe!